Welcome to the Educational Standards of America. I'm Susie Ventuga, and in this episode, we will be going beyond the border and exploring the educational funding in the United States and comparing it to the funding in Mexico. We will be taking a look at two different schools, one in San Diego, California, and one in San Quintin, Mexico, and analyzing how the budget affects them individually.
Here we see Alexander Graham Bell Middle School in Paradise Hills, San Diego. Bell is a large school of over 1,500 students who are all excited about their education and love being at Bell. It is a large campus. The facility covers about 56 acres. There are 89 classrooms and an average of about 34 students per classroom. Upon observing the students, we got a positive vibe from the kids and didn't notice any tension between students or faculty. Everyone seemed content. We will be looking at the kind of funding Bell receives and how it is vital for the school's success.
Quickly, capitalization notes. In fact, I'm almost thinking about scratching that because I want to make sure that we get the final draft of embarrassing moment in. So let me think about that for 1 second. Is my second up?
Yeah.
Crap. Let's do the capitalization thing quick. We hit the lights pretty fast. You're going to need your notebook. So we go to the grammar section.
The school's Academic Performance Index, API, from 2006 is described as 5,4. 5 being the statewide ranking of the school and 4 being the ranking of Bell compared to other similar schools. The API system works like so. The first number is on a scale from 1 to 10. If a school receives a 1, that means the school scored within the lowest 10 percentile of all the schools in the state. If a school receives a 10, that means they scored within the highest 10 percentile. These numbers are based off the school's overall performance on the CSTs, California Standards Test. The numbers I will be presenting are simply a percentage of students at Bell that achieve the proficient or advanced levels, which would be meeting or exceeding the state standards. In the area of English language arts, 41.4% of students scored at the proficient level, and in math, 35%. In California, funding comes from a few different sources, some including the federal government and money from state taxes. The money given to this school is put towards creating the best learning environment possible because every student deserves this. Each school is able to decide how they spend, although occasionally some funding is given for a specific use. In this case, they must use the money for that reason. A large portion of the school's funding is something called categorical aid. This funding is given to children who come from low-income families or who have disadvantages such as mental or physical disabilities. Categorical aid can vary from being a very small part of the school's overall funding or can be up to 1/3 of its budget based on how many kids are eligible.
Well, I've been at Bell since March, so just a few months. This was my second experience as a vice principal and first time in middle school. Well, we do have a lot of English language learners here at Bell, and we do provide supports for them in the classroom. Our test scores aren't as high as the other areas, but you have to remember the diverse number of students that we have at Bell, and we're meeting their needs. We're recognizing the differences, and we're meeting their needs as much as possible and giving them the supports that they need to be successful at school.
Bell offers a lot of programs. Among them is AVID, Advanced via Individual Determination. This program is focused towards teaching kids from 4th to 12th grade to prepare for college and learn how to put their determination to succeed to good use. The program takes in kids who do B, C, or even D work. Although these students' grades might be suffering, they are very capable of doing well. This program makes sure they are allowed to express themselves and accomplish their goals. AVID is funded by public and private organizations, some including U.S. State Department, U.S. Agency for International Development, and Open Society Institute. The amount of funding changes by year, depending on the interest it gets from the potential donating organizations.
We now welcome you to Santa Maria Primary School in San Quintin, Mexico, only a few miles from the beach. It is a small school of about 100 students, and it is grades 1 through 6. All students who attend the school come from around the area, within walking distance. The school is considered to be on the higher end of the other schools in the area. Some rooms have ceiling projectors, libraries, and a desktop computer for the teacher, while some are in a small bungalow with no windows, no tiled floors, cobwebs, and only a chalkboard. The bathrooms are very unsanitary, and the playground consists of a basketball hoop and a volleyball net on cement, on a dirt field. There's no uniform, although some students choose to dress in uniform attire. Everyone at Santa Maria seems satisfied with the resources available. What does this tell us about the expectations of the people who attend this school? What would be done if a school in the United States was similar to Santa Maria?
The education system in Mexico is quite different from the one in the United States. In 1857, it was stated in the Constitution that it would be mandatory as well as free to receive an education. This made for a more promising and literate generation for Mexico without the issue of cost. With an educated population, it would only put the country at an advantage. Then came the question of, who would fund these schools? Power was put into the hands of the central government, who would be watched with a close eye under federal supervision. A Secretariat of Education was later founded in 1921 to make the formal curriculum standards for all schools. In areas where there were high rates of illiteracy, more funding was made available so they would be able to meet the standards without struggling because of the cost of education. Most schools in Mexico focus on getting their students to learn and do well with the essentials, reading and writing. Since the way of living is so different between Mexico and the U.S., kids living in both countries don't necessarily need to know the same criteria. Education is free, but getting kids to attend school isn't so easy. The dropout rate is extremely high. This is because their economy and living situations are very different than here in the U.S., and school usually isn't top priority. Many children need to work to support their families and simply don't have enough time for their studies and don't find it necessary.
Since the way of living is so different between Mexico and the U.S., kids living in both countries don't necessarily need to live up to the same expectations. While kids in the U.S. are taught that school is the #1 priority, many students in Mexico, especially in indigenous areas, are taught to support their families, even if it means giving up their education. Students living in the United States, for example, have a curriculum they have to meet or they will not be successful. As for students in Mexico, it seems to be more of a personal decision. This has a large effect on the country's educated population and education system as a whole because of the evident reason: our economies and social expectations are not the same. That concludes this week's episode. Please tune in next week for another episode of Educational Standards of America. I'm Kate Gallagher. Thanks for watching.